His West Texas Hellraiser attitude made him the renegade black sheep of the Nashville music industry.
Better keep your mouth shut, because we will kick your ass.
Blending honky-tonk and rock and roll, his raw, hard-driving music captured a rebellious new spirit in country music.
He broke the first rule.
You know who should be in control?
You get punished in this town for doing that.
Waylon Jennings.
At 19 years old, he barely escaped disaster in the plane crash that killed rock and roll legend Buddy Holly.
I said, yeah, well, I hope your old plane crashes. And God almighty, for years I thought I caused it.
He raced through fortunes, wives, and miles of cocaine.
He says, how much is this a pound? I said, oh, you don't want a pound of this. He said, how much is it? I said, oh, about 30,000.
But he survived it all with the love of a good-hearted woman in love with a good-timing man.
She's a good-hearted woman.
I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for her.
The legendary life and career of Waylon Jennings on CMT Inside Fame.
We were the wild ones. We had this town up a tree.
Waylon Jennings' commanding presence and powerful personality have been his trademark both on stage and off.
Waylon, you know, he's just a different person. As soon as you meet him, you know, there's that magnetism about him and everything.
He's a gentle giant. He's, you know, he's thunderous in his manner, and there's some times that, you know, I've had to control myself.
But his boisterous, confrontational manner has also served to earn him a reputation as a troublemaker, an artist with an attitude.
And there are days where I'll go into the office and sit at the chair, and that chair will turn into a saddle, and it's hang on, you know, for the ride. You know, Waylon has expressed himself today, so yeah.
They think I'm meaner than a black snake, and, you know, they think I'm get up in the morning and kick old ladies and what have you, and I'm not anything like that.
Don't fool around with the rambling man.
The forces that molded his famous personality began the day he was born, June 15th, 1937, in the tiny West Texas town of Littlefield. He was the first of 4 sons born to W.A. and Laureen Jennings, a struggling young couple fighting for survival in the hard times of the Great Depression. His crib was placed on the stove to keep the rats away in the dirt floor shack.
I was old enough to remember that we had to go down to this neighbor's house to get something to eat. And that's the first time I'd ever seen a linoleum. It's the first time I'd ever seen electric light.
Well, it's just an old 2-room house that, shack. It didn't have any insulation or anything like that. And had, excuse my French, bird shingles, we called it.
At age 12, Waylon got up the courage to sing at a local radio talent contest. He not only won, but he so impressed the owner of the station that he was given a regular Saturday morning 15-minute radio show to perform his music.
I was so scared I didn't know what to do. I was 12 years old and had a radio show playing music.
Like many boys in the town, at age 16, Waylon dropped out of high school. He worked several odd jobs, but his focus was music, playing anywhere he could.
Waylon and 2 of his friends would sing on top of the concession stand at the drive-in movie and use it as a stage. And I could just see these long-legged West Texas boys up there, you know, just feeling like king of the world.
At age 19, Waylon married a local beauty named Maxine Lawrence.
Yeah, pretty girl, mean girl. Oh, Maxine, she was all right. We were both just kids, really, you know. And we wound up getting married, and which we never should have done.
In 1958, Waylon, Maxine, and 2 recent arrivals, son Terry and daughter Julie, moved from his hometown to Lubbock, Texas, where Waylon worked as a radio DJ. He also renewed an old friendship with a Lubbock native who was at the center of rock and roll excitement, Buddy Holly.
Buddy and I, we had a great time together, and he's what I call an upper. He was always laughing.
Buddy was the first one, really, to take a big interest in Waylon. And, in fact, he took him over to Clovis, New Mexico, and paid for his session. For somebody to do this, you know, Buddy had to think an awful lot of Waylon.
When Buddy Holly signed on for a winter dance party tour in 1959, a dispute with his manager caused him to work without his regular band, the Crickets. Instead, he hired 2 new musicians to replace them, Tommy Alsop and Waylon Jennings.
So he came in and he threw this bass at me, you know, and I caught it. He said, "You got 2 weeks to learn to play that thing." So I memorized, not learned to play.
Buddy was the big brother that Waylon really never had, that he could look up to as his sort of inspiration.
Waylon set off on the tour excited about his future. He was traveling with his hero Buddy Holly, as well as several other successful rock acts, including Ritchie Valens and the Big Bopper. But after a few weeks of traveling in the dead of winter in broken down unheated buses, the tour became a nightmare.
Couldn't sleep on there, couldn't get any rest, and, you know, all our clothes were dirty. We smelled like billy goats. Buddy had chartered this plane for me and him, and Tommy Alsop.
Buddy had chartered the plane because he was miserable, and the bus was freezing. He wanted to fly ahead and get some laundry done.
The small charter plane that took off from Clear Lake, Iowa, headed for Fargo on February 2nd, 1959, with its intended cargo of Buddy Holly, Tommy Alsop, and Waylon Jennings, never arrived. Tragically, it crashed shortly after takeoff. Waylon's brother Tommy was listening to his radio in Texas.
He'd come over that Buddy Holly and his band had been killed outside of Clear Lake, Iowa. And of course, everything just melted. And I took off to the house. Of course, Mama was in tears, and naturally everything was just up. I mean, bottom side upwards, everything had gone.
But a few hours later, Waylon called his mother to tell her he was still alive. In fact, he had never gotten on the plane. Before the plane took off, Waylon was approached by J.P. Richardson, known as the Big Bopper.
He says, "Listen, said, would you mind me taking your place on that plane?" He said, "Because said, I've had the flu, I'm sick, and I've got to get over there and get some rest." And I said, "If it's okay with Buddy, it's okay with me."
Saved by an accident of fate along with fellow band member Tommy Alsop, who had given up his seat to Ritchie Valens, Waylon was still alive. But he was tortured by the parting remark he made to Buddy Holly at the airport.
They were getting ready to leave and you know, tell each other goodbye, that Buddy said to Waylon, "Well, I hope your ass freezes on the bus."
And here I am, about 19 years old, and I said, "Yeah, well, I hope your old plane crashes." And God almighty, for years I thought I caused it, you know.
Don't ask me who I gave my seat to on that plane. I think you already know.
Coming up, Waylon's reaction to the death of Buddy Holly.
I wouldn't even play a guitar, I wouldn't pick it up.
And later, Waylon Jennings takes on New York City.
And we sure hope you like it, but if you don't like it, you better keep your mouth shut, because we will kick your ass.
When CMT Inside Fame continues.